You hit 10,000 in savings and you feel safer. You shouldn't. At the FDIC average of 0.38%, that 10 grand is quietly losing ground every month you celebrate it. And the day you cross 5 figures, the rules of money quietly flip in ways nobody warned you about. Picture 2 women. Maya is 29. She works in marketing in Columbus, Ohio. Her salary is $63,400. She has $1,147 in her checking account and $612 in a savings account she opened in college. Renee is also 29. Marketing, Columbus, Ohio. Salary, $63,400. Same job title at a different company 3 blocks away. Same income, same age, same city, same student loans paid off in the same year. Renee has $10,238 sitting in a high-yield savings account. Maya has $612. Maya wakes up at 3 a.m. some nights and does the math on a credit card she'd rather not think about. She turns down dinners with friends and tells herself it's because she's tired. Renee opens her banking app once a week. She negotiated a raise last spring. She just booked a flight to see her sister without checking the balance first. Same income. Opposite lives. And the difference between them isn't discipline. It isn't luck. It isn't a rich uncle. It's $10,000. One number, one threshold. And it's not about the money. Not really. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what happens inside your life, inside your brain, the day your savings cross $10,000, and why one of these women will retire a millionaire and the other one won't. Quick note before we go further. This video is for educational purposes only. Nothing here is financial advice. Always talk to a qualified financial professional before making any money decisions. But before we get there, there's one thing about that number most people get completely wrong. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a concept I want to give you a name for, because once it has a name, you'll start seeing it everywhere. I call it the survival ceiling. The survival ceiling is the financial threshold below which your brain literally cannot think long-term. Not because you're undisciplined, because of biology. When you have less than a few $1,000s in savings, your brain is in scarcity mode. Every expense is a threat. Every unexpected bill is a small emergency. Every target run carries a low hum of guilt. Vanguard research found that just $2,000 in emergency savings increases financial well-being by around 21%. Getting to 3 to 6 months of expenses adds roughly another 13% on top of that. That's not a small effect. That's the difference between waking up at 3 a.m. and sleeping through the night. Below the survival ceiling, your brain runs one operating system. Don't lose what you have. Above it, a second operating system unlocks. How do I grow what I have? Let me show you what the survival ceiling looks like in real life. Meet Jasmine. She's 28. She makes $54,000 a year teaching middle school in Atlanta. Jasmine keeps somewhere between $800 and $2,000 in savings at all times. She thinks she's being responsible. She is being responsible for someone who's never been taught what comes next. Then, her car needs a $1,200 brake repair. And in one afternoon, Jasmine's entire savings account is gone. She doesn't cry. She just gets very quiet. For the next 6 weeks, she eats rice and frozen vegetables. She cancels her friend's bachelorette weekend. She tells herself it's fine. It's not fine. Vanguard's research found that building up to 3 to 6 months of expenses delivers roughly 13% additional financial well-being on top of what you gain from a basic starter fund. And together, those gains are the single strongest predictor of financial well-being in their dataset. That isn't a wellness number. That's the difference between Jasmine and a version of Jasmine who could have absorbed that $1,200 hit without it touching her life. The survival ceiling isn't about money. It's about which version of you gets to make decisions. Here's the second mental model. I want you to remember this one too. I call it the Savings Snowball. At $0, saving feels pointless. The math doesn't visibly move. $500 in a month and you still feel broke. You're rolling a snowball that won't pack. But at $10,000, the snowball starts to pack. The math starts to visibly work. And by $50,000, it's rolling on its own. Let me show you the actual numbers. If you save $500 a month into a high-yield savings account, paying around 4.0% to 4.5%, which is roughly where the top HISAs sit right now, based on FDIC and bank rates tracked national leaders. Your first $10,000 takes about 22 months, almost 2 years of consistent saving. Your second $10,000 takes about 19 months, 3 months faster. Why? Because the interest is doing some of the work for you. Now watch what happens at $50,000. At $50,000 in a top high-yield account, the interest alone adds approximately $171 to $188 a month to your balance, depending on your exact rate. You haven't done anything. The money is paying you to exist. At $100,000, the interest adds about $375 a month. That is approaching a car payment, and it's just showing up. Numbers from the SEC's investor.gov compound interest tools confirm this curve. This is the savings snowball. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The hardest part of your entire financial life is the first $10,000. After that, the slope changes. Permanently. You are not bad at saving money. You are working against a slope that hasn't bent yet. The slope bends at $10,000. There's a fourth mental model I need you to have before we go further. And honestly, this one is the most expensive of them all. This is behavioral economics, not a mental health diagnosis. I call it the silence tax. The silence tax is the hidden cost of financial anxiety. It's the part of your paycheck nobody itemizes because it doesn't come out of your account. It comes out of your head. The American Psychological Association's Stress in America research has found that 72% of Americans report feeling stressed about money regularly. And the CFPB's Making Ends Meet research found that people with low savings and no saving habit are significantly more likely to report that finances control their lives, not as a crisis moment, but as a constant background condition. Let me show you what the silence tax actually looks like in a person. Meet Carlos. He's 33, IT support in Austin, salary $47,000. He had $400 in his savings account for most of his 20s. Every morning, before work, Carlos opened his banking app. Not because anything had changed overnight, because checking the number was the only way to lower his anxiety enough to start his day. 20 minutes, every morning, for years. He didn't know he was paying a tax. He thought that was just what mornings felt like. He thought the fog at his desk by 10 a.m. was a personality trait. It wasn't. It was a withdrawal. 14 months later, Carlos hit $10,000. He'd routed $600 a month into a HISA and stopped touching it. The day he crossed the line, nothing exploded. He just stopped checking the app every morning. 4 months after that, his manager pulled him into a one-on-one and offered him a promotion. He said, and I'm quoting Carlos quoting him, "You seem more focused lately." The $10,000 didn't change Carlos's job. It didn't change his skills. It changed his brain. It gave him back the 20 minutes a day and the cognitive bandwidth he'd been spending just to manage his own nervous system. That's the silence tax. And the cruelest part of it is that you can't feel yourself paying it until you stop. Carlos didn't know how loud it was until the room went quiet. When your savings cross $10,000, you don't just buy security. You stop paying a tax you didn't know was coming out of every paycheck. In focus, in decisions, in the version of you that shows up to work. There's a concept in this space called walking away money, a well-known principle that essentially says, your savings are leverage in your career. The more you have, the more options you can say yes or no to. I want to give it a sharper edge for you specifically. I call this version the walking away number. Your walking away number is the exact amount of money you'd need to survive 3 months without a paycheck. For most women between 25 and 40 earning $50K to $85K, that number lands somewhere between $12,500 and $21,000. $10,000 is the floor of the walking away number. It's where having one starts to be true. Let me show you what happens without it. Meet Priya. She's 31, a project coordinator in Seattle. She has $1,400 in savings. She gets a job offer from a company she has a bad feeling about. She takes the job. Not because she wants it, because she can't afford to say no. She stays 2 years. Her growth stalls. She doesn't get the promotion track she would have gotten somewhere else. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Data shows that salary growth in your late 20s and early 30s is among the steepest of any decade in a career. Median earnings jump roughly $12,000 between the 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 age brackets. 2 stalled years during that window shift your entire salary baseline for every job you negotiate after that. A compounding penalty. Career economists estimate can reach $30,000 to $50,000 in foregone lifetime earnings. 2 years of saying yes, when you wanted to say no, cost Priya $40,000. The job paid her about $58,000. The price of not having $10,000 was almost the price of an entire year of her salary. Now rewind. Same Priya, same job offer, but this time she has $12,000 in a HISA. She negotiates. She asks for $8,000 more and a remote arrangement. They say yes, not because she's a better negotiator, because she could afford to walk away if they said no. And they could feel it. The walking away number isn't about leaving. It's about being someone who can leave. The energy in the room changes. The offers change. Your entire career trajectory changes. Over 10 years, the version of Priya with $10,000 in savings earns somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000 more in cumulative salary, depending on the trajectory. The $10,000 didn't buy her freedom. It bought her leverage. And leverage compounds even faster than money does. There's a third concept I want you to leave with. I call it the visibility threshold. Below $10,000, the financial world looks like this. A few landmarks, a few obvious roads, mostly empty. You don't see opportunities because you're too close to the edge to look around. Above $10,000, the same world looks like this. A second map opens. Same world. Different access. 1. Most index fund minimums become reachable. Vanguard Admiral shares have a $3,000 minimum on many funds. Most basic index funds start at $0 to $1,000. Below $10K, you can't touch those without wrecking your safety net. Above $10K, you can. 2. Your 401K stops scaring you. With your emergency fund solid, you can finally raise your contribution past the match without feeling like you're choking yourself. 3. Interest from your HISA becomes a real line on your monthly budget. $40, then $60, then $100. You're earning money for sleeping. 4. You negotiate your salary from strength, not desperation. We already saw what that does. 5. The first time in your life you have the option to say no to something that's bad for you, a job, a relationship, a city, and mean it. That's not financial. That's identity. The visibility threshold isn't a math change. It's a perception change. You start to see options that were always there. You were just standing too close to the edge to look up. So let's talk about what to do, starting today, depending on where you actually are. There are 3 groups. Find yours. If you're in the $0 to $2,000 range, your one move is this. Open a high-yield savings account today, not next week, and automate a transfer the day after every paycheck hits. At a $45,000 salary, that's about $250 per paycheck. At $65,000, around $375. At $85,000, around $500. The number matters less than the automation. If you're between $2,000 and $7,000, you're closer than you think. Most people quit here because the slope hasn't bent yet. Don't quit here. Cut one recurring expense, one, and route it into the same HISA on autopay. You will hit 10K in under a year. If you're between $7,000 and $10,000, listen carefully. The day you cross $10,000, do not move the money. Do not blow it. Do not reward yourself by rating it. Take exactly $1,000, not from the 10K from your next paycheck, and open your first index fund position the same day. Make it a ritual. Name the day. That $1,000 is not the investment. It is the proof to yourself that you crossed the line. I call it the 10K celebration protocol. You crossed the survival ceiling. You started the savings snowball. You bought yourself a walking away number. The $1,000 into the index fund tells your brain something it has never been told before. We're not in survival mode anymore. Before you close this video, I want to give you something you can actually do. Not next month. Not when things calm down. In the next 30 days. I call this the 10K protocol. 3 steps. None of them take more than 10 minutes. All of them have to happen before this month ends. Step 1. Open a high-yield savings account today, not tomorrow. Today. There are 3 I'd point you at as starting places: SoFi, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and CIT Bank. All 3 have been at or near the top of the FDIC-insured HISA leaderboard for years. The application takes about 8 minutes. You'll need your Social Security number and a bank account to link. Here's why this matters more than it sounds. The difference between a regular savings account paying the national average of 0.38% APY and a top high-yield account at around 4.0% APY on $500 a month over 22 months is roughly $390 in extra interest. That's almost a month of groceries, for doing nothing different except where the money sits. Don't leave that on the table. Step 2. Set up one automatic transfer this week. Just one. It doesn't have to be impressive. Even $50 a paycheck counts. The number isn't the point. Automation is the point. Because automation removes willpower from the equation, and willpower is exactly what runs out at the end of a long week. Vanguard's How America Saves research found that workers enrolled in automatic savings plans participate at a rate of 94%, compared to just 64% for those who have to opt in manually. That 30-point gap is the automation effect. It doesn't require more discipline, it removes the need for it entirely. Step 3. And this one sounds soft. I promise you it isn't. Name your 10K. Inside your HISA, when you set up the account, you'll get the option to give it a nickname. Do not skip this. Do not leave it as Savings 2. Call it something that means something to you. Freedom Fund. Walking Away Number. Quiet Brain Account. Whatever makes it real to you. This isn't a vibe thing. There's a Nobel Prize behind it. Richard Thaler's work on mental accounting and behavioral economics shows that money in a named, purpose-labeled account behaves differently in your brain than money in a generic account. It gets protected. It gets defended. You stop rating it for things that don't deserve it. Same dollars, different outcomes. The label is the lock. The first $10,000 is the hardest $10,000 you will ever save. Nobody warns you about that. They warn you about your first million. They don't warn you about your first 10 grand, which is the part that actually breaks most people. After $10,000, the slope changes. The math starts working for you instead of against you. The snowball packs. The survival ceiling is behind you. The silence tax stops getting deducted. You start seeing the second map. You've got this. I mean that. Not as a sign-off, as a forecast. I'll see you in episode 2, where we talk about what happens after the 10K milestone. Specifically, your first investment dollar, not your first 1,000. Your first one. Because the day you move money from saving to investing is the day a completely different lever starts pulling. And I want to make sure you do it in a way that doesn't blow up your safety net. That one's coming. Get to $10,000. I'll meet you there. Here's what I want you to walk away with. $10,000 doesn't just give you financial security. It gives you back the part of your brain that was too busy being scared to think about the future. The question isn't whether you can afford to save $10,000. The question is whether you can afford to keep thinking the way you think without it. Next time, we look at what happens after $50,000 and why that number is where most people accidentally give it all back. There's a trap at $50K nobody warned me about, and I want to make sure nobody walks into it without seeing it first. If a friend of yours is sitting under the survival ceiling right now and doesn't know there's a second map above it, send them this. That's the only ask. The rest, I'll keep showing up for if you keep showing up with me. And one more thing, if you're not subscribed yet, hit it now. I'm walking every rung of this ladder with you, and you don't want to miss what happens at $50,000. That one changes the tax game in ways nobody talks about. I'll see you at the next rung.